Welcome, my crypto comic compatriots, to Creating Comic Book Series with me. I'm Scott Russell, and today we have a very special guest that I am so stoked about. Dan Cote, the legend himself. How you doing?
Good. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing good. Before we get into everything, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, share it out, get notified whenever we have a new post or a new video. It would also be extremely helpful if you did share it out as well. And don't forget to chime in on chat. Tonight we're going to be talking about airbrushing with Dan. And kind of before we get into that, you've created some of the coolest comics ever.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
So
I'm just getting started too.
Oh, I love to hear that.
Warming up.
I'm going to try to keep my fangirling to a minimum on this show, but I guarantee it's going to be hard. So,
Sweet.
Andrew Fry says, woohoo. Yep. Oh,
Nice.
So both of Andrew and I have stories. I know he's going to be bringing that up on Friday about how we kind of got into your comic books. And I just wanted to share mine. When I first got into comic books, it was mostly because of like Super Friends and that kind of stuff. And then I ended up in a comic book store and somebody handed me this comic book and it was Batman. And I was like, oh, wow, wait a second. I didn't realize that these were comic books. I was a little kid at the time.
So cartoons first, huh?
Yeah, it was the
Me
cartoons
too.
first. We had the,
Yeah.
oh yeah, the Adam West Batman. Used to watch it all the time. And then Super Friends and stuff like that. And then like a few years later, my cousin, who I found out was really big into comics, took me to the comic book store and he's like, dude, you got to see some actual good ones. I was like, what? And he showed me, I remember Daredevil. So there's always that special, place in my heart. And then he showed me your comic book, Zen. And, he was like, yeah, this isn't made by, just these big, huge publishers. This is made by like a guy, a live guy. And it was like, instantly, that's when I knew what I wanted to do for a living. Like I wanted to, create comic books and work in the comic book industry. And it was because of your book.
Oh,
so
no way. Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Thank you so much for that.
I love hearing stuff like that, because I've been in this game for 30 years and now dads are bringing their kids around and saying, hey, I got to show you this because this is what I read when I was a kid. So it's really very gratifying to see that kind of thing happen. And that's the thing, perseverance is the thing because, I'm not the greatest artist on the planet. I'm not the greatest comic book art on the planet, but I've been around and I stayed with it. And, it matters. It matters. That inspires people to do it. And I like that. I like that. I like that I'm touching lives. That's what it's all about, really, Sweet.
Well, and over on chat, Fry decided he's going to get beat one of these days. I'm going to have to hurt that boy.
It's okay. I'm a pretender too. I'm not a professional. This is pure hobby for me.
Oh, and I can't wait to see, like, you have so many cool things coming around the corner that,
yeah, I do.
I'm excited about.
And, like everything I do takes a long time. So I got a feeling everything's going to happen all at once too. So it's pretty exciting, but it's also a lot of work, man. But I love the work. Yeah. I love the work. And I guess that's what we're going to talk about is the work. So
thanks for keeping me on track. Yeah. So speaking of the work, we're going to be talking about airbrushing and
Right.
I guess the first question, what do you actually prefer? Is it like a double or a single action airbrush or?
Double for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Because you can feather, you get used to. What's interesting is like when you airbrush, when you draw with a pencil and a pen, your brain thinks that you're watching your hand at work.
Hmm.
And so then when you start airbrushing, you realize that no, your brain is a step ahead and your hand learns how to just do what needs to be done. Because with an airbrush, you're moving in and out, close to the canvas and far away. And, it's a dance. And, it's really, really very Zen experience in that respect because it changes your perspective of what your brain is doing. And that's why, when I went digital, I got a tablet and immediately it was the easiest transition ever because with the tablet, you're basically, a lot of people get messed up because they're like, oh, my hand's over here, but my subject's over here.
Hmm.
But with it, because I was airbrushing, I've already had that disconnect between thinking about my hand and the art that I was making. So when I went
Okay.
digital, it was perfectly natural, and I just went crazy with the digital. So yeah,
I
so
never made that connection before.
yeah, it's true. Yeah, well, a lot of people now they have the real sophisticated digital artists have their iPads now with Procreate, which
Hmm.
you are drawing the same way that you would with pencil and paper. Or you have if you really got some money, you got a Cintiq, which you can draw right on the screen. But, I do like I have a pretty big tablet, 18 by something, but it's like big hand motions and,
Mm.
it's just a great tool. And again, it's just a tool. So whatever tool you're using, you're going to get used to it. And so that's why I've done airbrush and pen and ink and digital, and I just always am experimenting, and
Okay.
that's the joy for me is like the experiment. um, so
And
like
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
every book I've done it in an actual different medium in a different way. So like even the last book you would have seen that I did, the next one, even if it's a continuing story, it's going to look different
And that
because
would
you're
be
always
right?
sorry.
And that
Pardon?
would be right?
Yeah, every time I do a book, it's coming out different. The book that Matt has, the Zenith Orb, for instance,
Hmm.
was 4 years in the making, and I did that completely digital in Adobe Illustrator, which not a lot of artists use that as their primary rendering tool, but I love Adobe Illustrator. And what's interesting is I would learn things in that 4 years, and you can see that when you're reading the book, because you see it just gets better and better and better and more sophisticated as you go along. It's like, wow, that's why it's such a great read, because it's like you can sit there for hours and just look at the pictures without even reading the story. So that's kind of a book you want to read and look and read and look several times, and there's a lot of enjoyment out of a book like that.
Well, speaking of that book, if you want to actually follow along, just go to cryptocomics.com/u/zenboy, and you can actually sign up right now and check out the book for yourself. So,
Yeah, the re book, which is spelled
yes.
RE. Yeah, that book is very very. I love making that book. It's a very special book. It's very personal because it's and every book should be,
Oh,
but
yeah.
this book kind of chronicles my experience in the corporate world, but in my crazed imagination. So like, for instance, if you ever worked in a corporation, there's a lot of bureaucrats and there's a lot of
Hmm.
formal organizations. And like one entity that I had to deal with, because I was doing packaging design for a toy company, and every kid has an uncle who's a lawyer, so the legal stuff that goes on in these packages is almost absurd, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
they have people that monitor that. They're called quality control. And so in the restory, which actually it's not even in this story, it's in the next phase of the story. The quality, but I just given you an example of the absurdity. The quality control team wears like heart icons on their shirt, and they're all love fest, but they're all militarized. And so, like, at the moment, the corporate mantra is zero tolerance. So if you make a mistake, you
Hmm.
get blown away. They come in and they just blow you away. So it's pretty intense and fun and crazy and wacky. And so I'm having such a fun time with that book. It's really fun.
It's such an awesome book. Like I was checking it out, and well, first off, the landscapes are just phenomenal. And but
Thanks.
when it actually started getting into the people, actually talking, it really reminded me of like the Empire from Star Wars, like kind of from the stormtroopers perspective.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah,
so can I actually
yeah.
show? Let me see.
You got it
Let's
handy?
show off a little bit. Yeah, I
Yeah,
do. Of
because like
course I do.
and the landscapes, like you said, the backgrounds and the landscapes, I love doing that, and they're all very much everything I learned about landscaping and airbrush. It looks airbrushed, but it's very digital, um, and it's got all the textures I love, and I really love texture. I think texture really matters a lot in artwork. Some people don't like it, but I do, and um,
I think it really adds to the piece.
it adds to the dimension of it too.
Oh yeah.
You can't let. I don't like when everything looks plastic. Everything's smooth and yeah, super fun to do. Super fun.
Oh, phenomenal. I love it. I love it.
I think each panel that you're looking at there was about 8 to 10 hours of work actually,
Oh,
which is pretty good.
that's so amazing. Oh man. All right. So let's get back to the interview before I could just look at this for
Right
hours.
on. Yeah. Let's take a blast to the past, and I want to show you some airbrushed artwork because
Okay.
I'm assuming that your listeners and watchers are wanting to know about technique and stuff of
Yes.
that matter, right? Let's see. Do I have my? I'm gonna look at the artwork through my phone. If I got it.
All right.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Oh, whoop,
There we
wrong,
go.
wrong one.
All right. So this is a piece.
Ah, why does it keep doing that?
I don't know. This is from far away. It looks terrible, but when you get when you get into the details, if it's focusable, look at the stuff going on in there.
All right, let me see if I could bring that up a little bit better. No, no. Why does it keep doing that to me?
I know, dude. I can see it.
There we go.
So you see all that stuff that's going on there? Those girders and panels and stuff like that. That's
Yeah.
all done using found objects. For instance, these here were sprues from a model kit that I laid down and then sprayed through it. Now these things here was actually I took a comb and I held it over and then sprayed through that. So I was doing a lot of experimenting with textures. Again, I love textures with the airbrush that nobody else was even thinking about. So if
That
I
is
could
so
find
cool.
something that was flat, like crap on the side of the road, I would use it. And that's how I would achieve all that cool detail.
Wow.
And, you know, like you said, most airbrush stuff always looks smooth and polished and plasticky, whereas I was getting textures. Okay,
That is amazing.
yeah, let me zoom in on that. But look how beautiful the color is on that. It holds up. This artwork, my friend, is over 25 years old,
Wow.
and it's
Now,
it's flawless.
you
And
were
that's a
telling me the story behind these pictures. You just got them back from a museum. Am I right?
yeah. There was an art show that I sent this artwork to, and this was from a book that I did call, and it was called it's this book. This book here, which was called the Airbrushed Art of Dan Cody. And I have some of those. They didn't sell a lot, so I have a lot of those. But every page is a full page airbrushed piece, and it was the last time that I did any real airbrushing.
Okay.
But
I
it's
have
a
a
super cool book.
copy of that picture or a copy of the comic I could bring up real quick. Okay. Oh, that is phenomenal.
And this here is like, okay, so the cover on this one is interesting because this is actually page one right
Oh,
here.
wow.
Got a hotspot on there, but that's page one. Simple, right? But the reason I chose that was because I was intending to have the covers laser cut so that you could see through it, and that's what you would see was this background. So this book here, it's only one of a dozen that actually has the laser cutting that takes advantage of that effect. And we couldn't afford to do it. It was like $2 a book to have it done that way. So I have like a dozen samples of it that are laser cut. But
Oh,
the rest
that
of
is
them,
so cool.
it's cool, right? The rest of them are like this. So the rest of them, just have white. But everything white was cut out by the laser cutter. It's probably cheaper now to have it done. It could be done now, but this is what the book looks like. It comes in,
Oh,
and they just, they were throwing money at different effects. So like that's why they're so different, because they're just different foils. So this one has a purple foil, and this one has a silver foil. But yeah, this was the last airbrushed book. But I might do it again when I retire. But right now, doing digital, I get everything I need from the digital world.
speaking of the digital world, we have a question once again from Fry over here. How do you achieve the same results in a digital medium? Do you have like simple brush presets, or is that like how
No,
do you actually?
uh, pretty much, right now my current workflow, because I am, as I told you, a consummate experimenter. But my current workflow involves doing everything in Adobe Illustrator as a vector. And I
Mm-hmm.
take it as far as I can go using gradations and stuff. And then I bring it into Photoshop and do all the finessing and stuff like that. But most of it is gradations that are achieved, with the vector art. So this is one of the pages that appears in that same book. All of this artwork is from that book, by the way. And so, like, I did the Zen airbrush, right?
Yeah,
And then I just had this background where I was just taking strings and dipping it in ink and splattering ink, and I
that's
used
how
to have
you achieve that.
yeah,
Wow.
that's all strings. I would soak it in paint and then drag it across there. Pretty fun, right?
That is so cool.
That's what it's all about, my friend. You got to have fun, and that's what I was doing. I was having a blast.
So, what is the like your go-to airbrush?
Well, I always had Badgers because they were cheap and easy to get, and I could get them at my local craft store. But later on, later on, I got a really fancy $200 Olympic turbo airbrush that was so fickle and fragile that it was absurd. But man, that thing could put in some fine lines. And when you're working on paper like this, you need fine lines. But the best airbrush I ever had was a Japanese airbrush from Iwata, and that was just very durable and very dependable. And I would use pretty much Dr. Martin's dyes for the ink, for the paint.
Okay.
And also another important tool was, like, of course, you got to have the right kind of paper that won't leak and bleed. So it has to be a pretty hard illustration board, right? And the other golden thing was Frisket Film, which is a clear plastic with an adhesive, low tack adhesive. And you would lay that on top and rub it on, and then X-Acto knife cut around, pull it off, and then do your airbrushing. And then you could actually put it back on and cut out the little bits and use, make stencils out of the little bits. And then it was spent, and then you had to throw it away. But that stuff was worth its weight in gold for this kind of stuff. In this piece, of course, just like Zen, it was done separately, and then I cut it out and put it on this background. So that's how that was done.
Okay.
Again,
Wow.
Same book. Fantastic book. I love that book.
So Fade Dragon over on chat just says so cool, and I couldn't agree more. It's this is so awesome.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Who said that?
Fade Dragon.
Okay. Also,
Looks like over on YouTube.
let's check out some of this detail if you can stay in focus with it.
Oh wow.
It's the
That
first
is amazing.
The first Ragulian biker. Imagine how loud that thing is, huh?
Oh,
The exhaust pipes are red with heat.
that is so cool. So you were talking a little bit about the paper that you use. Is there like just a standard go-to, like this is your canvas?
For me personally,
Yeah.
I was using back then. My go-to paper was called Letromax 2000, and I don't even know if you can get it anymore. I've looked for it. It's fantastic for airbrushing. It's great for inking because you could actually, it had a sort of a film on it, and you could actually scrape off your mistakes with an X-Acto blade if you were careful. So that was great paper. Getting a lot of shine here. That's probably better. Look at all that texture. Can you tell I like texture?
Oh yeah. See, I like texture too, so yeah.
Yeah. So like these white star masses were, like I said, experimenting is what I do. And that was a can of propelled marbling paint that I used that just is so random. All this stuff was really random. And you can see in the planet, these are all like, I would just throw rubber bands and whatever, string, and just spray over it.
See, I would have never have thought to use anything really. My whole experience.
Once I made that discovery, the sky was the limit, because I would be walking down the street and I would find this part of a radiator, and it had, it was flat. And actually, I've used a lot of nylons, because you can stretch it and spray through it, and you get a texture. So
cool.
anything that has holes in it becomes a stencil. Here's a good example right here. Like this is exactly what I'm talking about. The eyeball was like, I don't know, it had to come from some car. It was some sort of screen. It found it on the side of the road and sprayed through it, and there you go. You got a pattern. But this guy has a lot of nice texture too. And I would, do stuff like splatter some water on and then spray the paint on top, and that's how you got that marbling that you're seeing there.
Wow.
See, so the airbrush is definitely a tool worth experimenting with. And yes, Faded Dragon, the colors pop nicely because, and like these are 20-year-old colors. They have not faded an iota.
That is amazing. Wow. So when you're airbrushing, I keep getting told when I first tried to do it, it was close to 20 years ago. I think I spent a month going, I'm going to be the world's best airbrusher. And it didn't work out so well, obviously.
Why not?
Because I'm just not good at it. I keep getting told, you got to go with a 50-50 overlap. Can you explain what that means exactly?
I have no idea what that means.
Oh, okay.
50-50 overlap. I don't know what that means.
All right. Yeah, it was just something my art teacher used to always say. And he was like, you got to do this. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Huh. Maybe just a ratio of color, like you wouldn't want to plaster. I don't know what kind of paints he was using, but maybe that was the issue. But these colors are water-based colors. The darker aren't, so they're dyes. And if you just spray too much, then you ruin the piece because it gets all saturated with water and it would drip. And so you have to be really delicate. Also, I didn't go to art school, so I didn't have anybody telling me what I couldn't do. So, haha. Also, so check out that background. You see the background behind him?
Yeah, I love that.
Try and guess what that was.
Have
you ever made models?
Yeah.
The sprue, you know what the sprue is? It's the frame that all the pieces come on and you break them away. That's what that is.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
So, and then I would ink it after, so you can see some pretty fine ink work in there.
So you're actually doing the inking still after the fact?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I've always been really, I love pen and ink, so I'm trying to get all the things that I've learned over the years in one technique. But now this one is interesting because this is sort of an homage to my hero Roger Dean, because he did an album cover for Green Slade where this character appears. And when I went to Comic-Con and I met him and I was so excited. I was like a fanboy. And I was all excited, and I gave him the book, and he's going through the book, and he stopped there, and he goes, "Huh, that looks familiar." And I go, "Yes."
Oh wow, I can't get enough of that. That is so amazing.
It's fun, huh? So yeah, so that's what this whole book is, just full of that stuff.
Wow.
We're unboxing. This is an unboxing show.
Yeah, but this is the coolest unboxing I've ever seen.
Cat moment. Holy mackerel. They pack this stuff good, man. Wow. Go ahead and ask me questions while I unpack this. And you can
I totally forgot to be asking questions. So, let's see. we've kind of covered a little bit about, you know, creating your own templates and stuff like that. How is it going from like freehand to actually using like the stencil and stuff like that? Is it a lot harder? I mean,
Well, everything always starts with a sketch, and you should never ever discount the lead pencil on paper. Um, I mean, I would ride. I used to commute to work. I would take the train, and I would have a sketch pad, and I would come up with the best doodles in that 1 hour ride with no agenda. I would just sit down and start doodling.
mhm.
And by the time I got there, I had a fleshed out illustration. And so it always starts with a sketch. You never want to not be a sketcher. Always sketch because you can do it anywhere, anytime. You know, and I love my Procreate. I love my iPad, but I still rather put lead to paper, you know, because it's just a different feel, and it's organic, and it's just a wonderful thing.
All right, so Fade Dragon says it blows my mind the level of detailing with airbrushing on this scale. How was that achieved?
Well, the scale of it, I think. Could you tell how big they are?
It was kind of hard to like get a reference for them.
They're like 30 by 30 average.
Oh
You know,
wow.
so you work big.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it would take hours, dude. It was so much work, but I mean, look, they're still beautiful, you know.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's so worth it. These are all pen and ink pieces.
The journey is where you arrive.
Yeah. So here's oops, turn that phone around.
Here,
Can you see it? Okay, so in my most recent book called Home, this is what I did. So I would do sketches, and then I would pen and ink it. And then after the pen and inking was done, I scanned it and I did all the tones and backgrounds digitally. So that book is part organic and part digital. And the reason I did it that way is because, number one, I had a day job. So I'm working on these like an hour a night. So
mm-hmm.
doing a traditional big comic page was just not in the cards. So I was just doing one panel at a time. Of course, I would have the thumbnails all planned out ahead of time, but essentially every panel is one piece of artwork like this. So
That's cool.
so for that book, I actually took the artwork and I've laminated each one. Call me crazy, but just to preserve them. And you know, I'm gonna sell them because I don't need them. I'd rather get in the hands of people who will dig it. And you know, I'm going to sell them, and I'm going to sell them fairly cheap. You know, I'm not going to demand a lot of money like you would have to demand for a full page comic page. You know, I'm going to sell these one panel at a time
Oh,
and
cool.
spread them out across the world. You know, so that's kind
Well,
of
I
my
got some
plan.
space on my wall. You know, I'm just saying.
That's Zen's mom. Here. There he is. Yeah. Am I making everybody dizzy?
Oh, this is so cool.
So yeah, you know, I love my babies, and I mean, I have artwork that I did in high school.
Wow.
I don't throw anything away.
Whoa.
This is my favorite page right here from that book.
How that is amazing. Just the level of detail in your sketching.
Yeah, this is the pen and ink part of it.
I like how it actually kind of breaks the your border there.
Well, yeah, and you don't see that in the books, but that's the behind the scenes raw. That's how you know it's organic, right?
Oh yeah.
That's why I like pen and ink so much, because it's so very organic. It was done by a human being. Um, let's see.
So if you've never gone to art school, like I mean, you're very. How did I can't even think of the question? uh, how did
I'm
you get
sure. I'm sure a
into?
lot of people are self-taught. I'm self-taught. I just didn't have the smarts, man. I didn't have the smarts to go to school. Um, I got out of high school. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was living in Maine. I really didn't have any mentors or anybody to tell me where to go with what I was doing. So I've kind of been just really lucky stumbling along through life, and I just managed to get jobs that were art related, and I just kept my eyes open, and I learned, and I reverse engineered stuff and learned that way.
Oh
you know, like
wow!
like the packaging design stuff. I was not qualified for that, but I got lucky enough to be dropped in a seat at Mattel, and they said go, and I went, and I made a lot of mistakes, but I learned a lot, and you learn by watching what other people are doing, talking to people, and again, reverse engineering what they did. So, like in the digital world with packaging, that's easy to do because you've got a digital file with layers and you can tear it apart and figure it out.
Hmm.
Um, Same thing with the 3D book. I don't know if we really haven't talked about that. Um, but that is a whole nother story. Matt, were you aware that there's a 3D book?
Yes, I was. I wasn't entirely sure what year it came out exactly, but
Right. Well, this is the artwork from the original book. And so this book uh, is entirely full page artwork,
hmm.
and it's called the Earth Day Annual, and it has the honor of having a Sam Keith cover on it, which is amazing. It's amazing. I got Sam's artwork, which was line art, and I did all the airbrush colors on it, and that was quite an honor to do. But anyways,
Wow.
this book came out on Earth Day, and I want to say 1993 or four. I'm just guessing right now, honestly. But there's some sweet detail there. I just get lost in it. When I start inking, I get lost. And look at the hair. One of the best.
That is so cool.
And the detail and the arm. Just love it. I just love it. And this guy
So,
is so cool. This character is so cool. He's badass. Anyhow,
uh, can I
so I
show the
did.
cover real quick?
You have it?
Yeah,
Yeah, there you go. That's it.
that is so cool.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So anyways, I did this book, a decade ago or so. I don't know how long ago, a long time ago. And this was the book. And then I met this guy. The company I was working for sent me to London to meet this guy who was a doctorate in 3D and optical illusions. Really interesting cat. His name was David Birder. And anybody who's involved in any kind of 3D stuff knows who this guy is. He's like a super celebrity of 3D. But the company I was working for, they were trying to come up with a new card game. It was called Redikai, and they were looking for new tech for the cards. So they sent me there to talk to this guy, and I told him I did a comic, and he goes, "Oh, well, you should do it in 3D." I'm like, "Yeah, right. I can do it in 3D. Sure, whatever." And so I went home, and Steve caught wind of that, and he pushed me to figure it out, and I did. And what it involved was taking this artwork and scanning it, and then figuring out how many layers of dimension you wanted. So like anything in the foreground is a layer. This part of his arm is a layer. Whatever's on the same level had to become a layer. Very complex. I mean, you can see how complex this is. And so that basically meant that I had to create, say, 10 layers, 10 duplicates of this artwork. And then from each layer, I had to erase the parts that didn't belong. Okay. Am I crazy or what? That's crazy. That's a crazy amount of work.
Yeah.
Just doing that. So then you had to duplicate it, make one copy of that layer red and one copy blue. And then as you move them apart, if you're wearing the glasses, you would see them move. And that was like so cool to watch happen. It was like a kid in a candy store. I was just like, oh, wow, look at that. So like further apart they are, the deeper they recede. So like every layer was a certain increment separation, and it was all winged. There was no math. A lot of people have done it. They use math, and I just was winging it because I didn't know. I didn't know what I was doing. So it looked fantastic, especially on the computer, because RGB is native to red and blue. It worked. But to print it was more complex because printing involves CMYK, 4 colors. So I had to send it to Dr. Berter, and he had a friend named Jim Sharp who knew exactly how to do it. And he finessed the color separations for me, and it cost a bit because his England and the dollar was down, so it cost me quite a lot of money to have him master it. But I kind of did all the heavy lifting, and it took me a year at least to do the initial drawings of the 20 pages like this.
Yeah.
It took me a year and a half to tear it apart into those layers. So that, I think, is why you don't see a lot of really interesting 3D books on the market, because it's an absurd amount of work, especially for one guy. But this one works so well because it's full page. There's very few 3D books that are full page like this. And the more detail you have, the better 3D works. That's one thing I learned.
Well, Andrew Fry on chat says, I want this page so bad. And so do I. So also Andrew Dodge says, amazing, talented sketch art, Dan. Thank you for sharing your passion.
Well, thanks, Andrew.
Yeah. So
Dude,
yeah.
Andrew, is Andrew an artist also, Andrew Dodge?
No, he's a friend. He's been following crypto comics for a while, and I believe he works for Amazon, if I'm not mistaken.
I know.
Kudos, sir.
I know Matt thinks he wants that page, but wait till he sees this one. He's gonna change his mind. There's the cover.
Whoa.
There's the cover. Oh yeah.
Wow.
This is one of my favorite pieces for sure.
That's amazing.
But yeah, Andrew's right. I mean, passion is the deal, man. If you're not passionate about making art, then you're probably not going to do it. And especially for comics. I mean, comics are so labor intensive. You better love what you're doing and make it fun. Make it fun. That's why I'm always experimenting and trying new things. So, like right now, the vector art that I'm doing is very satisfying and very efficient. And I have a lot of stories that I want to tell. So I'm going for efficiency right now instead of just all this artwork is in that book.
Oh. Well, Daryl just says that's awesome. Daryl's awesome writer from one of the TCT boys. So yeah.
Nice. Hey, Daryl. Thanks, man. Yeah, you can tell I love doing this. It was like, I say it takes 40 hours, but it probably took more hours than that. So now I can do a piece like this digitally in probably 10 hours as opposed to the 40 it used to take, which is another reason why I love digital. But still, there's magic in this.
Oh yeah.
I love the digital stuff I do, and it's very satisfying, but there's definitely magic right here.
Wow. So I did have a question about that page that you had up earlier. It looks like the lettering itself wasn't actually done on the page itself. Like that was done and then cut out and then kind of stuck to it.
Absolutely right. Yep.
Okay.
This one too. Yeah. This is part of that 3D book, the original art from the what we called the Earth Day Annual at that time. But this is where that character kind of crash lands on Earth because he's a planet destroyer. That's all he does. And that's actually George Washington right there because he's actually landing at the base of Mount Rushmore.
Oh, okay.
And on the next page, he blows Mount Rushmore to bits. But it's a good crash scene. With all the trees flying around.
Well, Daryl just said fabulous detail, brother.
Thanks, man. So you see all the stippling there?
Oh yeah.
Because it's a rock face, I chose not to airbrush it. I used stipple, and most people use like a toothbrush to do that, which is a little blobby. What I found was there was this thing called an atomizer, which is basically two metal straws, one bigger than the other, on a hinge, and you would blow through the bigger straw and put the in a shape of an L. You would dip the other end in ink. And when you blow through the bigger straw, it creates a vacuum. The ink draws up into the smaller straw and comes out in a little more controlled way than a toothbrush would enable. So all of that little stippling detail in there was done that way.
See, every time I've done that, it's just been me with a pen making about 10 billion little dots.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it seems like it's a lot easier.
And you can tell I'm not afraid of tedious inking.
Oh yeah.
But to do that much inking, I don't know.
Oh, that is so cool.
A little shortcut for you, buddy. Find yourself an atomizer and save you a lot of time, but you still have to have that.
Yeah.
You still have to have you still need the Frisket stuff to make stencils.
Okay.
I got really good with the X-Acto knife. I was very skilled with an X-Acto knife.
Pixel Slappa on YouTube asks, where's the best place to see Twitch or hear? Either one works. Just make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications. And my notification is lame here. So yeah, definitely go to go to Twitch. And then Jake says, I love how it just jumps out of the picture at you.
They're so vibrant, right?
Oh, yeah.
So this was actually, this is Zen's Hypershift. And it should be noted that, you can see the heavy Roger Dean influence because Roger Dean is the one that I learned that you could do anamorphic spaceships because he did that early in his career. And again, I was inspired by that. So this, Zen's hypership was very much a dragonfly, and I still do that.
So in the later issues of Zen, it actually seems to the dragonfly ship becomes kind of transparent. Actually,
Seems like everybody's interpreted it a different way. We've had a lot of different artists interpret Zen stories, and they all like to put their own signature on it. And they weren't influenced by Roger Dean, so they might not adhere to that anamorphic ideal.
We started talking a little bit about Roger Dean on the Monday show a little bit. He has a very unique style of the landscapes, which you've kind of taken and made your own. And I mean, with like it really reminds me of what is that movie, Avatar?
Oh, don't say that too loud. That is a bone of contention for Roger.
Oh, it is?
Oh, yes, because it's a total Roger Dean ripoff. Dude,
oh,
so when I saw that movie, I thought, oh, wow, Roger Dean movie. I mean, the floating rocks, the dragon, the designs on the dragon's wings, oh, they totally ripped them. And it really bothers him a lot, and I feel bad for him because he deserved a lot of credit for that movie, actually. But actually, I watched Roger do some painting today, and his color sensibilities are way more subtle than mine. But the man is just brilliant. I recommend discovering him if you can.
That is so cool. How did you get that texture?
The marbling. I also learned that from Roger Dean. All he did was take. All you do is take two kinds of paints that don't mix together well. So water-based and oil-based mixed together gives you that kind of marbling stuff that's going on. But also this particular piece, this is very bizarre, but these edges, this is actually pasted on here and glued on here. And what I used was a wood burner, and I cut these random shapes, and you can see how random they are. It's because it's a wood burner. It was burning the paper. And so I got those edges that way, and then glued it on here, and then started coloring it up additionally so it blended better.
Wow. See, I would have never have thought to ever do that.
And this guy was done separately on different material and cut out. I exactly cut him out and then glued him onto the scene. So a lot of these, were before Photoshop layering. I would just cut them out and paste them onto the art base. And that's how that was made.
See, I would have never have thought to, cut and paste with art.
Sure.
I mean, outside of a collage, that is, I love how well it works. That is amazing.
I don't even know what I'm pulling out. I'm just pulling this stuff out of the box. You guys having fun looking at this? I know you were hoping for an airbrush lesson, but I just don't have the setup for it.
I am just in total awe. This is so awesome.
There we go. Here's the masterpiece. This is the masterpiece right here. This is the piece. The Best of Zen cover. It was used a couple of times, but this one is just so epic.
Oh, yes, it is.
How's the lighting? Pretty good?
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, he was cut out and pasted onto this scene. As we're no, this is all the background is one piece. Actually, this is all one piece.
Okay.
So no pasting involved. This was all done at one time, one layer, with just a lot of Frisket.
Whew. Well, Pixel
So
Slapper says she's got to go. I'll see you later. And
bye. Thanks for coming.
join us again on Friday.
Yeah, we'll be back Friday. So like all these stringy things too, like, well, I think I already described how I did that. Actually, you know what? I think for this one, I used ramen noodles and broke them up and threw them on top and sprayed through them. See what I mean? That's experimenting. That's the beauty of the airbrush. That's the
Well, if
beauty
you're
of the
not going to eat
airbrush.
them, might as well
If
put
you
them.
can, yeah, you know, and it's totally you can't predict it. It's totally random because as you're spraying, this is air, so the ramen noodles are going to skitter around, right? So it's totally unpredictable and totally random, but totally beautiful.
Well, Faye Dragon on chat says amazing. That's a must-have. Wow. OMG. Wow. Amazing is all I can say. Yeah, I'm in the same boat, Andrew. I I pride myself on, being able to write and say anything, but I'm speechless. These are so cool.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. And you know, I hate to say it, but I'll probably never see this kind of stuff being done again. Just because I'm 60 and I'm just now hitting my stride with my storytelling and books and stuff, and I got a lot of stories still to tell. And like I said, every single book I've done a different way. So I don't tend to go backwards. I do love doing airbrush though. So it's like if I do, it will be when I'm fully retired from storytelling and just want to have fun.
Wow. So, how did you actually come up with initial designs for Zen?
Again, it was a doodle. Because like I can't emphasize enough how the importance of doodling is, because doodling with pencil on paper is such a subconscious exercise that's where the best ideas come from. If you're not thinking too hard, stuff will happen, right? And Zen, the look of Zen was a result of one of those doodles. And like I said, I didn't tell this group, but I really was not influenced by comic books in any way because I wasn't allowed to read them when I was a kid. So when I met Steve, the writer, the other co-creator, Steve, he had this story, and I said, "Well, I got this doodle. You think he would look right for this part?" And then we're like, "Yeah." And it was initially he was like this faceless dude with a leather jacket and a sleeve gun that was coming out, and it was very loose interpretation. This is a
Huh.
great piece.
Oh, yeah. So, Faye Dragon asks, will Dan be selling these pieces?
Oh, my babies? Sell my babies? I don't know. It would have to be like thousands of dollars for me to part with these. Thousands. So if you got $5,000 kicking around, maybe I'll sell it. But I really don't have a desire to sell these. I still have books though. I got books.
Oh, yeah. Would they be able to buy like a print or anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I've digitized these, so I can make prints. You know, you request them, I can definitely make prints of this stuff. Um, but also, I think, you know, like I said, I have books, and if you guys want to buy this book, which is out of print, and you know, I think I've got the only ones. You might find some on eBay and Amazon, but um, you can buy them directly from me, and I'll sell you a book for like $20, signed and shipped and all that, for you crypto comic fans. So right now, yeah, we'll call that an exclusive deal. I can hook you up with that book. You just have to send me your email and request, and decide whether you want the silver foil or the red foil.
Oh,
But it's definitely a book you want to have. But I did sell some artwork last year to a guy who had been really insistent, and he kept peppering me, you know, requests. And I'm like, no, dude, no, I can't. I'm not selling it. And then when COVID happened, um, I decided I really, really, really needed an electric bike, and so I sold it to him for what an electric bike cost. So he's a lucky guy. He got it for a pretty good deal. I think my phone's about to die, so I think we're gonna have to cut short the displaying of artwork here.
okay.
So, sorry about that. That was fun though.
Oh,
So
that
now we
is
just
so cool.
so now we'll just chat.
Oh, looks like we're having a little bit of audio issues.
Are you?
Okay, I think we're good.
Okay, good. So yeah, so you know, I don't know how many aspiring artists are watching right now, but um, the deal is, you know, experiment, sketch constantly. And, you know, I'm not sketching 12 hours a day. I'm just, you know, you can only do so much because, you know, this kind of work is mentally taxing. You know, when you do artwork like this, you can work for 4 hours and you will be mentally exhausted. You know, that's a reality. However, you know, if you got a day job, which, you know, most of this stuff was done in that kind of environment, you know, you do your 10-hour day, 12-hour day. And my last job was like 12 hours if you count the commute and everything. But again, I was on a train most of the time. So there was a couple of hours of sketch time that I had. Um, well, really an hour. I could do that in the morning. On the way home, I was usually pretty tired and I would nap.
Hmm.
And I am a I am a power napper, no doubt about it. I'm a big advocate of napping. So like every, you know, 4 or 5 hours of creative output, I need 15 minutes a nap. And I'm fortunate that I can do that. I can lay my head on the desk for 15 minutes, just close my eyes, rest my brain, and I go into a pretty short, deep sleep, depending on how hard I've been working, you know. But not everybody can do that, you know. It's like I know most people, a lot of people, they take a nap and they're down for an hour and then they wake up groggy.
Oh
I
yeah.
feel, I feel bad for you guys. I come from a line of milkmen. My grandfather and my dad and my uncles and even me, we were milkmen. We got up at 3 in the morning to deliver milk. So napping was a natural thing, and I think it got genetically passed through to us too, so that napping was easy, is easy. Um, but again, here's the deal. You know, when you work hard, you work all day, you're doing stuff for other people, you're not doing it for yourself. So when I would get home, I would take a bath, and that would separate my work day from where I was going next, which was in my world for me. So a shower, bath, a swim in the pool, whatever you got to do, if there's something you can do to just separate the day and
Hmm.
then dive in. And what happens was, and I always tell people this, the hardest part of doing this is sitting down in the chair. the chair that you're going to draw in is the hardest place to sit down into. You find every excuse, every distraction, anything. And it's a subconscious thing because it is exhausting. It does mentally drain you. But you got to fight that, because once you do sit down and engage, you will get energy and you will drive on. And next thing you know, you don't even know how much time went by. A lot of times I would look around the room and was like, oh yeah, I moved my furniture. I'm on the other side of the room now. I would forget where I was. Seriously, because you're in the zone and you're energized. So don't hesitate. Force yourself into the chair and get down to it, Also, advice-wise, don't wait for your stuff to be perfect before you unleash it on the public, because the next time will be better, I promise. Like every book I've ever done, I thought, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever done, and then I do the next one and it comes out better, and everything you do is going to get better. And now when I look back at my very first book, it's almost embarrassingly bad anatomy and the lettering is ridiculous. But it doesn't matter, because look, you are inspired by it, right? We are our worst critics. And we look at that stuff and we go, oh, that's not that great. So what? That's not the point. You don't have to be perfect. Now, you got professionals that work for Marvel and DC who would argue that point, and I don't claim to be that level of professional. What I am is supremely creative and energized and passionate, and that is what defines me, and that's what drives me. And I don't care what anybody else thinks. So you can critique me all day long. I don't care. I'm satisfied and I'm happy with what I did, and that's the key. Don't let anybody put you down. I mean, they will. But I know artists that are really, really bad, and I'm not ever going to tell them that, but it doesn't matter, because they find their audience, and that's what I tell them. I said, you've got a style and you've got content that is not for me, and that's okay. But you have an audience out there somewhere. There are people who are going to dig this, and it's going to resonate, and just got to find them.
So you did, before you sent me over a couple of pictures that I was hoping to actually bring up and just ask you a little bit about it. Let's see.
Let's have a look.
Okay. Let me pull them up, and
oh yeah.
This is so cool.
You like that, huh?
Oh yeah. So how did you do that? That's the coolest looking speed lines I've ever seen.
Right on.
How are you able to actually achieve that?
Well, in the digital world, these kind of things are really easy. Basically, when I was working for when I first started working for Spin Master, I was designing all the Bakugan cards, for the gameplay. That's what this is. And so technique-wise, as far as that goes, what it was like, I made some scribbled lines. They were probably approximately like that, but then I used the smudge tool and I pulled the lines and marbled them, and little liquefying going on. So I mean, Photoshop has some great filters, and so I imagine that's how I did that. Was I pushed and pulled using the liquefy filter, and then because like you saw, like what I learned with the airbrushing, I would do my background separately and then cut out those bits of Zen and paste them on. In this case, you got Photoshop, you got layers, so it's flawless. So then I would bring this artwork render of the Bakugan, put it on another layer, and then did the special effects of the lightning shoot and stuff like that after that. So, Amy likes that advice. Which one? I've been spewing out a lot of advice.
I think it was probably in reference to the one where you talked about your own worst critic and
Oh yeah, and sitting down in the chair, right?
oh yeah.
Just sit down in the chair, doodle, doodle, doodle. Everything comes from doodles. All the best ideas come from doodles.
All right. So what
So
about
yeah, so that's Bakugan. So that's another one. Again, yeah, you know, a lot of these backgrounds were like photographs that I took too, and that kind of makes
really?
them unique. Yeah, because like my dad would always like go, "Your pictures don't have any people in them. Why? You know, that's crazy." And it's like I just see things, and I take pictures of leaves and textures and bark and rust and anything, you know, and that's all material for backgrounds and textures.
Wow.
And it's better to make your own because, you know, these phones are so high res now that it's incredible. So you got a phone, you've got your own texture machine. You know, yeah. So I mean, I would look under
Never
leaves.
thought
I
of
would
it that
take
way.
pictures. Yeah, I would take pictures under leaves and get in there. My favorite camera had first digital camera I had was a Nikon, and it had a swivel, sort of a swivel hip, and you could turn it and then hold it down at your ankles and take pictures. It was really cool. It was not the highest megapixel thing, but that's how I learned about, you know, macro photography. And, you know, as a kid, that was a big influence on me. Was crawling around in the woods and looking at frogs and streams and stuff like that, right? And so naturally, when I got into photography, I got into macro photography, which is super cool because, you know, on the ground, that's another world you're not even aware of. When you look at it through a macro lens, it's Roger Dean world. Seriously, you know. I remember taking a picture of a. I was walking around in the woods and I took a picture of a mushroom, and I just took the camera and I stuck it under the mushroom and took a picture just to see what I would get. And when I got it home and put it on the computer, there was a bug inside there, and he had eaten out a cave for himself. Looked very comfortable, and he was living in his refrigerator essentially. All his food was around him. I was like, wow, that is so cool. So I
Huh.
mean, there's lots of little surprises in the macro world that you definitely might want to explore if you're crazy like me.
That is so cool. All right, so this next picture, it's got to be one of my favorites. I
Oh yeah,
love
yeah,
just
that's cool.
how everything comes together and just
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I did these cards for like 5 years, and I learned a lot about effective design through that job. It was really, really pretty rewarding. Um, and I was really lucky to have a job like that where I could learn the digital tools. Um, and these guys just kind of let me do whatever I wanted with these characters. It had nothing to do with the story, very little to do with the gameplay. They were just great images that complemented the cards. And it was really fun time to do that. Thanks. I
oh,
like that piece too. It's really fun.
all right.
And
This one,
that one actually, I got to that, you know, I was so busy designing the cards that I didn't really get to illustrate a lot of the monsters. But
mhm.
this one is one of my illustrations. So I got to illustrate this guy, and I would just do like every 24 cards or so, I got to illustrate one of them, and this was one of them. Um, and again, the foreground is probably tree bark from a photograph that I took.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay, I can see that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And you know, that's what I love about, you know, the I was talking earlier about, you know, what I do. My process now is using Adobe Illustrator.
Mhm.
That character is all vector, meaning I created him in Adobe Illustrator, and um, all the little all the little details and stuff are all. I just have a really nice technique for Illustrator that I really find a lot of fun, and it seems organic, and it really is. So then when I do that, finish that character and place him into the scene, then I just, you know, use Photoshop tools to brighten up spots here and there and darken and shadow other spots and sometimes blur. But that's really all I do. So I take the art in Illustrator and take it probably 90% of the way and then finish it off in Photoshop. Photoshop's great for that.
Wow.
But the whole entire Zenith orb is completely vector. And you know, even though, you know, I know it took 4 years to make, but that was actually pretty efficient. I mean, I would do a panel a night. You know, if I had it sketched out and made a render, I could do a render like this in 4 hours easily.
Wow.
Because I've just been doing it so long, and I learned, you know, by doing these cards, and I had to really produce these cards fast, and so I got really efficient with it, and so I can do a panel like this in about 4 hours. Now
That is so cool.
And that's why I don't really airbrush anymore, because I mean, I look at this. I mean, I'm not breathing any vapors. I'm not spilling any ink. I'm not annoying the neighbors with my compressor. You know, my fingers were always dirty. Well, they look dirty. It was paint. I had paint embedded in my skin from airbrushing. It was absurd. Yeah, permanently. They're not permanent. I mean, it went away eventually, but that's dye. It's dye, you know. So yeah, people knew what I was doing when I got to work the next day. Definitely.
All right. So this cover, I love it. Yeah. What can you tell us about Ree?
Okay. Like I said, Ree is a very personal project for me, and it's about corporate absurdity in a science fiction setting. What is interesting is, like, I have two friends of mine that share the same publisher, First Comics, Matt and Sean Philbach. They are inspiration for me. They are the best storytellers I've ever met, and they're so fun. Their books are just crazy fun, right? And we love talking about the process. And we were talking about storytelling, and they let me know that it was okay to tell a story without any words. And three-quarters of that book, there's nothing. There's nothing. And I'm going to add sound effects, but I mean, there's no dialogue. It's just the setup. And the setup is like, what, 12 pages long? Which is crazy in most, no editor would let that happen, but I got free range. So it's my story. I'm doing anyway. And like you said, the dialogue happens way at the end of the story, and it's okay. And it's fun, and it makes you think. And I like that. And so that is really my approach to storytelling, is to have a long intro and then blam, start going with it.
Well, I love it that it gives you a sense of the world. Not just,
right.
Here's the characters. This is what they're all about. Here's the world that everybody's living in.
Yeah. So. And that's from, my roots as a Maine kid, loving my planet so much, really. I just love environments and landscapes and all that stuff. The only formal training I ever had was learning how to oil paint landscapes. And the first thing they taught us was the Pemaquid Point Lighthouse. Everybody that took lessons from this guy painted the Pemaquid Point Lighthouse. And so landscaping became very important to me. And everything, every living thing in the world, every animal, they all have a story. And I just love and revere life. And I'm not just, it's just everything is magical to me. It sounds crazy, but I love scrutinizing everything.
kind of going back to the, loving the world around you.
Mm.
I noticed like Zen kind of was almost like the precursor to like Captain Planet, if you will. Just taking that environmentalism. I didn't remember it being as strong in the comics until going back when we got told that, hey, Dan Code's in the system. So kind of went back and was checking it all out again, and it was I remembered like villains like Contaminus, but it didn't
right.
I guess the message didn't sink in when I was, a kid. I was more of the, is a ninja, space, alien ninja.
How old were you?
Oh, 7 when it first came
Really?
out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So were you watching Captain Planet or not so much?
Not as much, because Captain Planet was, I watched 1 or 2 episodes, and then even as a kid, the next episode came on. I was like, oh, this is exactly like the last episode. So I kind of gave up on it pretty quick.
Interesting. We Zen was the precursor to Captain Planet. We did it first.
Oh, yes.
Because I remember that very, very well. I remember, see, here's the thing that happened. We did the first book, and Steve and I, it took 1.5 years for me to do it because it's all airbrush, right? It took me 1.5 years. And, Steve had the story written, and there was all this decapitating going on and bloodletting, and it was pretty violent, and my son was probably 5 or 6 at the time, and I realized that he can't read this book. It's too violent, right? And I am an avid reader of National Geographics. I always have been. I love them. I eat them for breakfast. And it was that year that National Geographics pointed out that the Earth was in trouble. Okay. So it was from that I was inspired to say, first of all, Zen is resonating, and we are in the pop culture world now. And I feel like we have a responsibility here. And Steve said, okay, all right. And I explained, I want my son to read this book too, right? And we can't. So we changed the blade that he was wielding into the photon stick that he uses now, and changed the whole tone in the second book. And it kind of threw Steve way off, but that's where I wanted to go with it. So then, the Ninja Turtles were taken off, and Steve, is a marketing guy, and he's like, we need to do what those guys are doing. We need a licensing agent, And so he's like a pit bull. He relentlessly pursued their licensing agent, who was a guy named Mark Friedman. And Friedman got finally so annoyed with him, he said, okay, fine, we'll sign a contract. And so he became our licensing agent, right? And so we drove to New York from Maine to go meet with him and talk about it. And he told us basically, well, Zen's a character. He's one guy, and he's got the Ninja Turtles, and they're 4 guys. And he's like, you need more characters, and you need characters, then the more accessories they have, the better. And we're like, yeah, okay, yeah, we want to be rich like them, so we'll do whatever it takes. And we sat in the hotel room that night, and we brainstormed on, and I was happy because now my environmental agenda was getting addressed. I'm like, yeah. And so we came up with all those characters in a hotel room in New York and Long Island in one night. And then we got a licensing deal with Archie Comics, and they flew with it. And so all those environmental heroes and toxic villains were a result of that. And I really, even today, I like their idea, even though back then it was, it was easy to tell. It was easy. You look at it now and it's really, really cheesy. Those Archie books, the story and all the explanation of how they got their powers. It's really cheesy and unsophisticated. And you can't get away with that nowadays. You really can't. Even kids are more sophisticated, too sophisticated for that kind of simplicity. They want to know the science behind it. And now I could bring those characters back with the science. I know how to put it into context with today's audience, and that is part of my future agenda for Zen, is to actually bring those guys back in a very different and sophisticated way.
Oh wow.
So yeah, I'm not done yet. Yeah.
So, kind of, what was it, about 2001? Zen got a little bit of a revamp. They gave him a mouth and stuff like that. Like, as the original creator,
Mhm.
how did that feel?
Bad.
Okay.
I don't like it. I don't endorse it. I don't approve of it. I never did. Steve felt it was vitally important to do that because no actor would want to be Zen if they're not recognizable. That was his point of view, and I don't like it. Because now it's just a blue guy from the Blue Man Group. I don't.
Yeah.
Not for me. I won't do it.
See, I
that
like
way.
the
And that's
original.
fine,
Yeah.
That's fine. If he wants to do it that way, that's fine. But I won't. I like the integrity of the original character and his faceless features, and and we're 50-50 partners, so I can do whatever I want. He can do whatever he wants too. But that's definitely a dividing point, a creative difference that we have as far as storytelling goes. But,
I actually kind of like the idea of him not having a mouth. So, speaking had to be that, telepathic. And
yeah.
so,
Yeah, and I know you guys asked me Monday, who I would want to be the actor, and
oh yeah,
I
yeah.
really wasn't. I'm not a movie expert, so I don't know. I could be standing next to Bruce Willis and I wouldn't know it. But for me, whoever would be Zen, it's all about the voice.
Mm-hmm.
Because think about it, if a guy was communicating to you telepathically, what would it sound like? Well, it would sound like a deep, resonant voice that doesn't have to yell. So it would be a soft but firm, deep voice. That's my criteria for Zen. So if you want an A-list actor, they can be the villain. But Zen, it's all about the voice. So I need to find the right voice, and that would be the key. That would be the guy.
Well, if you remember Dread, starring Carl Urban, he never even took the helmet off. So, there's still hope.
Yeah. No, it's easier now than it used to be. That's kind of a 90s mindset that it has to be, because like Spider-Man had to reveal his face, right? Because the actor needed his face time. That wasn't necessary. You didn't have to do that. That was just in the contract. That was silly. It's like, I need my face time. I need to be recognized. Bullshit.
I love it. So, I want to ask you about your the old NES game. It was just kind of mind-blowing at the time. See, I had a neighbor that he could care less about comic books. I was always bugging him about like, oh, in this story, this happened. He was like, dude, I don't care. But he was big into Nintendo. And he got Zen. And I remember going over to his house to go play it because my mom was like, no, we can't have the game console hooked up to the TV because everybody's watching TV. So I would go over to his house to play, and it was so different because it wasn't like with Contra or something like that where every level is kind of the same, style of gameplay. Yours was a mixture of the side scroller, plus it had that isometric view, and I mean every level was different.
It was 3/4 scrolling, they called it. Konami really did a great job with that.
Oh yeah, they did.
Yep, and it's still used today. They use it for speed gaming. So like these guys use that game primarily for speed contest. Who can get to the top level the fastest? And like the fastest dude is like 5 minutes. He can finish the Zen game. That's a thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oof.
I can't.
Yeah, I can't. But I mean, there were some levels on there that, like the one where you had to kind of blow up a factory. It's been a long time since I
an
played
oil
that game.
refinery.
Yeah, that one killed me. I always ended up playing it first, and I would use up all of my what is it called? Where you're doing the meditating, you're refilling your power. Yeah, I would use that up all there. So it was like the rest of the game was like, oh, I have to do so carefully. But
that's funny. It's funny because like I'm not a gamer. I can't be a gamer because I'm a maker. That
yeah,
sounds. I don't want to be snobby, but it's like I knew if I got into, and I loved playing those games when they first came out, but I knew it was going to suck me in and I would never come out. And I wouldn't be able to make art if I did. So I had to stay away. But I loved watching my son play games, and that was entertaining enough for me. But yeah, I just never could get into that world because it would have owned me. And yeah, I got too many stories to tell before I die, so I can't go there.
but that game was such a cool mixture of like actually taking, from the comic, and it was just, it was so fun to play.
Yeah. I think Steve worked pretty closely with Konami as far as the storytelling goes. He did a good job.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Wow. All right. Well, we're going to have to wrap this up, or else I'll keep asking you questions, and, Jared will kill me because he'd be like, there's nothing else to talk about on Friday.
There will be.
Oh, yeah.
Don't worry.
Everybody, cool. I want you to join us on Friday at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So I guess it'd be 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to have Dan on again. We're going to do a spotlight. We have some really cool things to kind of reveal to everybody. So, yeah, stay tuned, and make sure you hit that like, share, subscribe, and get in that system. Check out Dan's the re-comic, and man, just yeah.
Are they still free, or are you guys?
Yes, for right now. Yes. Yeah. It's coming up. Can't say when, but
free books, guys. Free look. Yeah. Free look. Do it now. If you need an invitation, you send me an email to. Should I give them my email?
I wouldn't give them your personal email or anything like that. What is your website? I'll put it here in chat.
Yeah. www.zen.intergalactic.ninja. I'll give you some time to type that out. Intergalactic Ninja dot. Got it? Dot Weebly, WEEBLY.com. And there's a link to send me an email through there, and you can get all kinds of information about Zen. I have another website. Actually, I'm going to have 4 pretty soon, but I've got this one is www.icandyuniverse.com. And that's where I have a bunch of other artwork for other project that I'm working on, and a bunch of swag. So if you want to help support me, you can go there and buy some of my stuff. Go buy my stuff. I got some really cool shirts and mugs and stuff there. They're really unique and fun to wear. So yeah, but we're going to talk about that Friday. We're going to talk about that stuff Friday. So.
Oh yeah. Oh, we got so much cool stuff coming. So that'll be it for us, guys. And Dan, if you want to stay on after the show ends. So I just have a couple more questions for you.
All right.
All right.
And then I got to go cook.
Okay. Until next time, everybody. And Ah, there we go. All right. Bye, everyone.